welcome to MINDSHOCK. This is Bruce McGuire.
And JR.
And we're finally going to get a top secret government employee's opinion and take on flat Earth. Once again, if you like our podcast, you can donate to our PayPal. Just check the link in the description. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell for notifications. If you like the video, hit the like button. Feel free to share it across social media platforms like our Facebook page. You could also check us out, Twitter, Reddit, Patreon. Okay, Maxwell and I actually have done a number of podcasts on flat Earth. Not so much about the intricacies of the science, but mostly about the illogicality, particularly on the side of the globe earthers. So before we get into all that, JR, would you associate yourself as a heliocentric globe believer or as a geocentric flat earther? Believe it or not, that's a serious question.
Well, I mean, Bruce, honestly, I mean, for me personally, I mean, I respect the flat earthers. I completely understand their perspective, but, explain to me the vacuum of space and then explain their theory on top of it. So, I mean,
Okay, so this is a very good point. Maxwell and I actually brought this up in the last podcast while we were dissecting some interviews. So the vacuum of space, so this is what's hilarious. So the heliocentric globe Earth believers use the vacuum of space as a proof for heliocentric globe. What's funny is the flat earthers actually use that as a proof for flat Earth because an enclosed system cannot exist next to a vacuum without a barrier. So some flat earthers actually believe there's a dome firmament as described in the Bible, like a physical barrier.
But what's beyond the barrier? I mean, there has to be something that's, pushing towards the barrier, right?
Okay, so there's many different theories, and I'm not gonna lump all flat earthers into believing a single theory. So some flat earthers don't believe in the firmament. They don't believe in any space at all. But some flat earthers believe Hold on. Some flat earthers believe as above, so below. They actually believe that space is some kind of a water medium, and that celestial bodies are simply reflecting through water, and they're not actually solid objects.
Well, I mean, I can actually kind of empathize in that situation. I mean, let's look at, the ideals that water equalizes all men. Let's look at, the ideals of space, where there's not only a vacuum, there's not only expansion and contraction, but, we're also talking about, people in the physical sense can't survive without life suits. I mean, and we're talking about, people that believe, human beings have actually made it to space. Because, I mean, between me and you, and also Maxwell, there are also people out there that believe that, we've never, gone beyond the stratosphere to where we've actually reached.
You've carefully avoided answering my moon question, JR.
Look, anyway, I'm not at liberty to, give any particular...
But let me stop you right there. Some flat earthers don't believe anyone has ever been in space. They've never been outside.
Well, that's why I'm saying what I'm saying, because, I mean, there are people that believe that, we can't expand beyond our own planetary gravitational systems. And it's not even the gravitational systems, it's just, the basic life cycle systems in general. Yes, we've produced the ability to so-and-so, clone life on Earth, or, with Bessie, with the sheep and so on and so forth, which, ironically, went underground after the late 90s. But, we've also been able to, produce suits that can, sort of go to the Arianas Trench. I mean, James Cameron went to the Arianas Trench.
Allegedly, right?
Allegedly, supposedly, videotaped, the deepest place on Earth.
But how do we know? How do we know he videotaped where he said he videotaped?
We don't know dick shit. I'm just saying that, I think, this is what...
Don't you know, though? Don't you have contacts in NASA? Don't you know people?
I have a lot of contacts, but I'm not willing to, precede me and my family's, procurement of, government, insurance and, my paycheck to, on your channel to where I'm willing to, tell
You're anonymous, Jay. We don't even know what JR stands for. Does that mean?
But anonymous. I mean, anonymous can mean many things. Anonymous can mean a hacker group. You know how many people from quote unquote anonymous are in jail right now? I mean, I'm not willing to be anonymous. Anything could be figured out. So I mean, yes.
Is JR your initials, or is it because you have your father's name and that's just your nickname? We don't even know that.
And you're never gonna, Bruce, because when I agreed to go to your podcast, we didn't discuss that, and we're not gonna do it on air. So
okay, hold on. So have you heard the news about NASA and mainstream science announcing that the moon is actually inside the Earth's atmosphere? It was all over the news the other week. Have you heard it?
Yes, I have. And
now,
I follow NASA very closely.
I want your opinion on that, because all of the flat earthers, I mean, this is not looking good for globe earthers. When all of a sudden, all of this accepted dogma in scientism is suddenly turned upside down, all of a sudden, the moon is actually inside the Earth. What do these astronomers?
Well, I will say, Bruce. I mean, we've had extensive conversations about not only NASA but the actual International Space Station as well as orbit off camera. And the fact that you're hitting me with this now is kind of disturbing, because
I just wanted your take on it. I know our listeners out there.
You're kind of putting me on the spot here.
We have both flat earther and globe earther listeners. I don't know if there's too many lunatics like me that are so obsessed with logic that they're actually going to be
NASA is a physical organization within the federal government. They're given billions of dollars a year, which has constantly been depleted since Kennedy. Regarding their extrapolation of the universe. I will say, to people that are pro-space, there has been an exponential amount of technology that has been produced based on that program. If you have something that's in your pocket that resembles a computer, it doesn't have to be the latest phone, but
some people would argue that that's all because of Tesla and transistors and
Tesla is Tesla is kind of a gray area. I mean, but what I'm saying is that the federal government basically put the phone that's in your pocket right now that you're probably watching this fucking podcast on. They're the ones that made it possible for that to actually become a reality, based on commercial intuition. The commercial industry doesn't necessarily coincide with the federal industry. If you've ever heard the term that federal technology is 10 years above the commercial technology.
I believe we discussed this before. I've seen the number 50 years.
Maybe you're we're not going to talk about the amount of years, but if you're talking about, how federal technology precluded, commercial technology.
All right, hold on. You're kind of avoiding the question here. The moon is now inside the Earth's atmosphere. This does not look good for NASA and mainstream science and all of these astrophysicists that have long been stating that the moon is outside of the Earth's atmosphere. So if we can't even trust these priests in lab coats, as some people call them, can we trust anything they say, or should I just continue listing logical fallacies in people accepting the words of government?
Well, you can trust whatever you want. I mean, there are people that are against the NRA. There are people that are for the NRA. There are people that are for the Republican Party or against the Democratic Party. Well, what I'm saying is that let's put it this way: the moon. Based on even basic fact. Whether or not you believe. We're going back almost 5,000 to 7,000 years here. The moon has orbited Earth for a fashion. Whether or not it always orbited it, okay, we can go into speculative, shadow people realm, okay? But the moon has orbited the Earth for a fashion. Whether or not, if you're listening to this podcast the Earth, the moon has orbited the Earth within your lifetime. I don't know who you are. I don't know if you believe in any of what we're talking about, but I can assure you that in that period of fashion, that the moon has orbited the Earth within that period of time.
Is the moon a physical object?
If you believe the moon is real, if you don't believe it's real, if you believe that, we're, living within some sort of, fucking Jim Carrey situation where this is all just a facade, then maybe you don't.
I think people want to know what you know. I'm sure you've rubbed elbows with people in the know. I'm asking you, what are the conversations around the water coolers regarding this flat Earth phenomenon?
Well, believe it or not, real government employees don't have conversations against the water coolers. I think I showed you the footage.
It was a metaphor. It was a metaphor, Jay.
I was smoking a cigarette the other day with someone that was we were around a governmental gas container, and it actually said danger gasoline, and we were both smoking cigarettes. So, the water cooler is really irrelevant.
It was a metaphor.
That's kind of...
While you were smoking around the gas container, what kind of conversations come up? Is the moon a physical object? Or is it some kind of weird hologram projection? Or is it some kind of weird artificial extraterrestrial satellite like David Icke purports? What do you know, JR?
I don't believe, based on my knowledge and based on what I've talked about, the moon is a physical object. I don't believe in David Icke's theory that it's some sort of astral projection. That's just my belief based on who I've talked to.
I listed several theories there. I believe the holographic projection, I don't believe I don't think that was David Icke. I think David Icke said it was a physical extraterrestrial satellite. I believe that's what Icke's theory was. Someone could correct me if I'm wrong. That was somebody's theory. I don't know if David Icke used it or just mentioned it.
It's a well, let me just put it to you this way. In my experience, based on who I've talked to, it's a physical moon. And by moon, the actual definition of moon is quite broad. It could be an asteroid. It could be a physical planet. I believe that the moon physically orbits our planet based on
So by saying planet, I'm assuming you're on team heliocentric globe.
Even if it's flat, Bruce. Let's look at it logically. Even if the Earth is flat, even if the moon is flat, there's no physics out there that denotes that the moon can't be physically flat and the Earth can't be physically flat, but the flat upon the flat physically cycles the flat. There's no physics out there that denote that can't be a reality.
Okay, so that was actually funny you should say that, because that was actually one of my points on the Flat Earth Phenomena podcast, the first MINDSHOCK podcast on Flat Earth, is that Einstein even said that there aren't any experiments that can be come up with that would prove heliocentric versus geocentric or the motion of the Earth. So I think that's very interesting. So my point was just using logic alone. Is it possible to prove either model? And that's a separate issue from, I think people are curious, JR.
I think we're obsessed with Einstein because of certain aspects, and certain aspects, related to the atom bomb were also related to Isaac Newton, who, gave certain credence to actual gravity. But that said, when you look at those in retrospect, they're extremely basic concepts. Very, very basic concepts.
JR, have you heard that...
Wait, let me just finish here for a second. For us to, idealize that the Earth is round or that it's not a carpet, for us to, idealize that the moon is round and not a carpet, we don't have the necessary mathematics. There are a lot of graduate students that'll tune into this channel that will argue and give all kinds of bullshit, but at the end of the day, those arguments are not accepted by science. We're talking about currently what's accepted by science, and what's accepted by science is so basic. I mean, when you talk about, like, and I just want to say this before you get into your, aspect. When we talk about what's accepted by science, most concepts that are accepted by science, for example, Einstein or Newton or Tesla or other people, what makes them effective are that they're able to be accepted by people below the age of 10. So, and that goes with, like, for example, like, people within the Jewish tradition and money and so on and so forth. Like, like most perspectives in terms of science or monetary gain or history or whatever, like, those concepts are that basic to where they're able to illustrate it in a fashion to where people under the age of the level of 10, whether they're 40, 50, 60, 70, a 10-year-old level can accept the ideals that, hey, this is real. And I think that points to the progression of the human race in general, that we're not the super race. We're not, as much as we think we are. We're able to accept that this looks like science because it's that basic that my kid brother who's only 7 can identify with the fact that this could be real. That's what makes this all a reality. It's not the fact that, look at mathematics. Mathematics are so complicated that it may or may not be accepted based on its full front. But, look at John Nash with game theory. Well, he produced theory that produced games that were acceptable to 7-year-olds. All of a sudden, John Nash is receiving a prize. So, there's a lot of things out there that we have to look at, like, who we're looking at. And we also have to look at ourselves as human beings, as creatures of the earth, as whether or not we're just creatures of the earth or whether we're people that are in evolution beyond the scope of we're able to accept this beyond grizzly bears and cougars.
All right, let me reel you in a little bit with that. So the listeners want to know, and I'm curious too, is there some kind of flat Earth psyop, whether or not the Earth is flat or round? Is there a government-initiated top-secret psyop to cause destabilization in populations when you have people arguing against the educational institutions and academia? Is flat Earth a psyop, or was it just a bunch of people who just all of a sudden decided to push this theory online?
It's not a psyop. I will tell you, like, full on, like, that, like, whether or not, like, currently the government, the physical federal government of America feels that, like, the earth is round. They feel that they have certain principles that, like, allow that to be round. However, even though that's the case, they have organizations such as NASA, which are constantly disrespected by budget cuts. They do have people that question their own government entity by questioning them with aspects of, well, why is it round? That's part of the government. That's part of the people's money. I think a lot of people think that, like, the people's money are appropriated to a certain point. When it comes to the federal government, it's a little different. It's not the municipal government. And I think that's the big change here, is that, like, with the municipal government, it's about affecting change in the community. When it comes to the federal government, it's about progress. So,
hold on. The flat earthers would argue if there is a psyop or conspiracy, it would be above your pay grade or above 99.9% of people's pay grade, and you would never know, which I'm asking you because you have said that you've talked to some people with some advanced clearances. Has this specifically come up, or can you ask them specifically about this topic, or will they not tell you?
The ironic part is it's not advanced clearances. Like, there are people that are employed in both polars. Like, that's where the people's money is going. Like, is it flat or is it round? I think within the current years, based on the International Space Station and so on and so forth, it's...
Wait, so you're saying, do you have direct knowledge that the ISS is actually in space and it's real? Because the flat earthers are arguing that it's not actually, that it's either not up there at all, and all the videos inside are all fake, and it's just made in some kind of zero gravity chamber, or there's something up there. It's some weird hot air balloon device that's up there. There's actually no people in it, and it's just kind of like a fake device that can be spotted with a telescope, so they could say, oh, yeah, it's there. But all the videos on the interior are actually shot in either a zero gravity plane or in some kind of top secret base.
I don't know expressly, because I'm not a part of that community, as to whether or not it's, like, really that fake or that real. What I can say is that, like, you know, for the people that are true disbelievers, where they believe it's like an OJ, where, like, you know, like, they landed on planet Mars or planet whatever, I forget the movie, but, like, you know, it's all just, like, purely fake. There are those true believers where, like, they did that and conquered that and they succeeded in that. Whether or not it was real, I don't know. But, I mean, if we're going to talk that level, they're actually to the point where they're actually effectively faking actors to believe that they landed on those particular situations.
Wait. Hold on a second. I didn't catch that. Are you saying they're tricking astronauts or NASA employees into believing they went somewhere that they didn't go to, or are you saying that as a hypothetical?
I'm saying that as a reality. I mean, like, because I've talked to NASA people. Like, and I'm talking about it in a very candid way. Like, if they were tricked into believing that they went to where they went to, it's not like an OJ movie where, like, you know, like, they were told up front, hey, this is fake, and we're just going to fake this for the American public. They truly believe that they went to where they went to. If that's the case, there's a whole nother shadow entity, which, unfortunately, I'm not aware of.
Wait,
that
hold on.
made that a reality.
Wait, you're saying this is actually true?
I'm saying that the people that actually supposedly landed, floated, and existed within the spectrum of NASA believe that it is true. Whether or not it actually is left up to a shadow entity, if it's not true, that I'm not aware of. And I can't necessarily write that off because I've been privy to many government games where things are true, but they're not true, but they're true, but they're not true type situation. So for me to, like, you know, and again, I'm not associated with the actual space project per se, but to say that the people that actually went on these missions and did this and believed that they were a part of it, to say that they're not validated would be wrong. To say that it actually was legitimate and that they weren't, like, you know, part of some sort of strange government project to where they believed it and then reported to elementary school children that, you know, they really were on, you know, like, the International Space Station when they weren't. I don't have that information for you, Bruce.
Okay,
I mean, I
hold
just
on.
don't.
Just to clarify, so this has always been on my mind ever since looking at the flat Earth debate, because is it irrefutable proof when an astronaut says something? I mean, that's hearsay. So whether or not they really believe it or they're lying, that's irrelevant to the logic or the illogicality of accepting their words on blind faith. So
That's,
I think that's
true, but I mean, again, like, you know, you have to look at the federal prisoner, which is the polar opposite of that situation. If they said they had maggots in their food, they have no access to any camera or ability to denote that they had that in their food.
Yeah, hold on.
So they're constantly considered irrelevant as well.
Hold on. Let me finish my question, because I know you don't want to talk about the moon landing specifically, but some people point to the
I don't want to talk about my involvement with the government. I'm not necessarily worried about the moon landing.
Let me finish my question. So the flat earthers claim that or some flat earthers, let me not group them all together. There's a certain percentage of flat earthers claim that the astronauts of the Apollo missions, particularly the first one, they didn't know that it was going to be faked. So, and I actually heard for the first time that, was it Buzz Aldrin? His mother's maiden name is Moon. Is that true?
I don't know offhand, but like I could believe that.
I think it was Buzz Aldrin. Maybe it was Neil Armstrong. I think, was it Armstrong?
Well,
I
I mean,
know.
Buzz Aldrin was the first individual within the realm of space to actually contact the ground and say we have extraterrestrials among us.
All right, hold on. Before let's
it was
hold
it
on,
was
hold
it
on.
was it was later. He later played it off, but he was very serious at the time.
Let's not open that can of worms. We got to save that for.
Well, I'm just saying, like, I mean, I'm not trying to, like, open cans of worms. I'm just saying, like, he was privy to access that I don't think was properly, I mean, in accordance with the government.
Oh, let me finish my question. So some flat earthers believe that the Apollo astronauts really believed and really trained to really go to the moon. But then when they didn't go, like you could see it at the press conference, and I've watched it. I haven't done my diligent research into dissecting it as much as I would need to do a dedicated podcast to it. But it does really seem that they were depressed, dejected, and they couldn't even keep their answers straight. Some of them were saying you could see the stars and they looked amazing. Some of them say there's no stars at all, it's just black. I mean, they're standing a few feet from each other. Shouldn't they have the same story? Have you seen the press conference? So that goes to your point. I think some of them, so in other cases, I think more recently specifically with the ISS, who's to say that the government is not drugging these people and then taking them to some underground facility where they think it's the International Space Station, and they have these simulation screens showing the Earth, so then when they come back, they really believe they were up there when they weren't, so they would be saying what they believe is to be the truth. I mean, obviously they have the budget to do that, so I guess what you were saying was along these lines, but do you believe it's possible that the Apollo astronauts thought they were going to go and then they realized they didn't go and that's why they didn't give interviews? I mean, what's the deal there?
Well, I mean, like, you have to understand that, like, there was an extraordinary amount of, like, Apollo astronauts that died of very rare conditions. And, additionally, like, yes, the government had the budget to do whatever to make it, like, plausible to the American public. Additionally, like, I will say that, like, the actual astronauts themselves, you have to understand, I think you would have to be in the military. I mean, like, when I was in the military, like, I was exposed to radiation for food preparation. Like, the government, like, produces a lot of really weird exercises, like, to people, like, for example, it wasn't Jim Lovell, but it was his partner who ran for state of California Senate and died as a result. I mean, like, there are a lot of really weird experiments they produce upon you as an individual.
So it's within the realm of possibility, in your opinion?
I think that within the scope, yes, but at the same time, the government is really concerned with, like, numbers and volume and circulation, so they can't say that, like, I mean, like, the people that, like, went on these missions were shot into space. Whether or not what they were looking at the windows were really real is left up to debate. Whether or not they actually landed on the moon is left up to debate. But I believe that the people, like, especially, like, people like Jim Lovell, whatever, like, Buzz Aldrin, like, they believed what they were seeing was real. Because at the point that they were sent there and did that, it was real. I mean, like, whether or not it was fake, it was real to them.
Okay. Very interesting point. I'm not sure that's been thoroughly discussed, but on MindShock, we go deep and we discuss everything. I have two more questions. One of them is a little bit complicated. There's been some discussion on Reddit about this. So my main logical counter to it can't be a real conspiracy because too many people would be in on it. See, I disagree because as with all conspiracies and cover-ups, especially the declassified proven ones, the government operates on a need-to-know basis, and everything is compartmentalized. So if they were making, let's say, the fake software or fake hardware for tracking these shuttles or rockets into space or all of this, they wouldn't know because if they had development teams, and this would be under the umbrella of black budget, so this probably wouldn't even encroach NASA's own budget, but if they have these teams of engineers, they think they're creating just testing software. They wouldn't know that it would be used to cover up flat Earth if the Earth was flat or whatever conspiracy. If it's a different shape, who knows? So, in your opinion, in my opinion, it's a very, if there's a cover up, all these 99% of NASA's employees are not in on it. 99% of government employees are not in on it. It's a small handful of people, and there are all these teams, and even the heads of the teams wouldn't know what the real purpose is. Is that an accurate assessment on my part?
Good point. I mean, you can buy, Apollo gimbal computers, on Etsy. They sell them. So if you are that fan of the moon landing or, so on and so forth, you can actually, buy Raspberry Pis that replicate, the actual system. They have a varying degree of
yeah, but hold on a second. I was referring to, say, telemetry data, all of which has been lost, 18,000 reels lost by NASA, because I guess they weren't the greatest achievement of all mankind is not important. I mean, NASA did this to themselves. There would be no conspiracy if all of these shady anomalies didn't happen. But I'm just saying, I think it's more of a telemetry issue. Like they just would replace one hardware chip in a rocket or a shuttle, and the telemetry data being transported to base would be giving coordinates that weren't real. So the only people that know about the chip, like even the person that swapped the chip, they wouldn't know because, oh, this is the safe upgraded chip. Go swap it. They would never know it would be used to be faking anything. And then the team that developed the chip, they would never know what that chip is for, and they would never even be told about it. It would just be used. They would just be told it was used for testing purposes. That was the scope of my question.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's. Yeah, I mean, but again, it was done in the age before, Facebook and so on and
no,
so
I'm
forth.
talking now. So, I'm talking now. If there's a cover up now, they're doing it now. That's they're swapping.
Well, I mean, you're talking about now, but now they've deleted the shuttle project. So I mean, what's now? There is no now. In terms of NASA.
Still. I mean, there's still shuttle launches, but there's still, or let's say 5 years ago, whatever. There's still shuttle launches, and I guess I might as well go into lead into my final question. So SpaceX and Elon Musk, if there's some kind of flat Earth conspiracy cover up, is Elon Musk a government employee or a government controlled? And if there was a cover up, how easy would it be for them to involve SpaceX? Because it would be a similar situation, right? If Elon Musk was in on it, you have one engineer swap a few chips, and that's it. 99% of SpaceX's 7,000 employees.
Well, you're not just talking about that though. You're also talking about Jeff Bezos and other people that they want to be involved in the space development, and execution projects. So they're actively involved in the research and development. So yes, flat Earth has its ground. I'm not going to dispute flat Earth, but at the same time there are those people that have developed projects to where they've been able to we're in an era where we're not talking about NASA anymore. We're talking about the commercialization of space in general.
But so certain flat earthers point to SpaceX saying so many years ago that there would be commercialized space travel already, and there never is. And then if you look at every single president says that NASA's going back, or the U.S. and NASA are going back to the moon, and they never do. I mean, you can look back over the past 20, 25 years. They're always saying they're going again, and then they never go. Why is that?
I think it has a lot to do with the fact that, like, like, there's political motivation, but, like, like, at the end of the day, like, there was no reason. I mean, like, with Kennedy, like, he had a purpose. He forced whatever. Whether it was fake or real, like, we'll never really
But
actually know.
What do you mean there's no purpose? The moon would be like the best scientific base there is. I mean, it would be the best. It would be a lot more useful than going to Mars or some of these other places.
Right, but, like, if it was just, I mean, like, we're talking about just our country, like, like, look at Russia, China, Iran, Iraq.
Well, do you know how much money? See, here, I don't. This is one of the legitimate points of the flat earthers.
I mean, like, but let's look at Gene Roddenberry.
You know how much
Wait. Let me just say this. Look at Gene Roddenberry. Like, with Gene Roddenberry with Star Trek, there was no amount of money. It was all community property to further the goal. So, if we're talking about, like, a situation like Iran or Iraq or, North Korea. Let's look at North Korea. They were starving due to famine. But that said, if their leaders, who they propose as gods, decided that, like, we should go to the moon, then why didn't they, if they could?
I don't know, but you should have let me finish, because if there was commercialization of the moon, do you know how much money that would make? Like, tourists going to the moon? All the billionaires would be going to the moon. Like, it would be huge business. There's no reason not to go to the moon. If it's possible to go to the moon.
Based on a country that has the technology to go there.
Well, the U.S.
But let's look at other countries.
Well, didn't China allegedly had a moon landing, right? Like, I don't know that much about it, but did China allegedly land on the moon?
Allegedly, but I mean, like, we're talking about allegedly. We use words like allegedly. It's like, everyone on Earth knows that America landed on the moon. Based on what?
A lot of people dispute that.
And most of them are Americans.
I don't know the numbers. I can't argue with you there.
Well, I'm just saying, like, like, most of them are Americans. But, like, ironically, like, if we suddenly heard, like, tomorrow, North Korea landed on the moon, like, do you have any idea, like, what we would have to hear to make it plausible that they actually did that? I mean, like, like, with America, like, we landed on the moon, ha ha ha, like, war games and, like, some bullshit movie. Like, we were able to do that. But allegedly. What about other countries?
I don't know. This is getting really crazy. But, okay, any final thoughts on the whole flat earth conspiracy? You've brought some interesting points to the table about possibly astronauts being tricked into believing that they went, so they did think it was real. I'm
not saying flat earth is wrong, and I'm not saying it's right. What I'm saying is that, like, I think what fails us as human citizens, and as people that pay the taxes to produce this technology, is that we're given limited answers. And, like, for that, it's quote-unquote classified based on the courts, but that's not a real answer, is it? Like, because we're paying.
No, it's not. And that's why this whole debate is going on.
So, I mean, like, yes, like, I could believe in the whole Earth Society. I could believe in, like, the Flat Earth Society, because no society has ever taken precedence, because the government has prevented both sides from producing research that excludes the other. And I do have certain governmental knowledge. I've been in very rare places of the earth, based on my military experience. But that said, like, even then, with what I know, and I've been on the far side of the moon. I've been in parts of the world where, sunshine, shines for like 3 months a year. But I can't definitively say flat Earth or round Earth is wrong, because I wasn't privy to that information. And ironically, neither were the scientists that were researching it.
All very good points. All very good points. Once again, thank you for joining us and offering your knowledge on various subjects. If you like the podcast, you can donate to our PayPal. Just check the link in the description. If you like this episode, hit the like button and feel free to share it across social media platforms. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, like our Facebook page. You can also check us out on Twitter, Reddit, Patreon. This is Bruce McGuire signing off.
And JR?
We'll catch you guys next time.